Welcome back, everyone, to Total War Warhammer 2. Now, before we look at the Dark Elves and Malekith here, I do want to let you guys know that I realized that when I did my video about where we take a look at the armies of the factions, that was when the game was like early on and it kind of first came out. I realized that they've added some more since then. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to do a video where I'm going to show you kind of at least a couple more of the factions that you can play in terms of the different kinds of armies. Mainly, of course, the Vampire Coast and the Tomb Kings, since those were two of the big factions that they added for this, that added some changes to the faction in terms of the armies that you can actually play as, since the Vampire Coast army is quite different from the Vampire Count's army from the first game, and is different from if you play against them in Mortal Empires. So expect a video where I'm probably going to show those, at least those two armies, if not others. I'll look into it to see if there are any more that I need to show off. Now, with that being said, what do you guys say we take a look at the Dark Elves? One of the more, I guess you could say, evil factions in this game, in this setting, apart from Chaos, of course. And, yeah. They have Black Arcs, which are powerful naval units that can be able to replenish forces, recruit new units and forces, and bombard battles within range. This is pretty awesome to be able to have a Black Arc like right here in the port of the main city, Nagorond. And anytime there's a battle that takes place there with your main army here, you can just have them just have extra army abilities to bombard the battlefield. It's pretty great. Slaves, yeah. Provide a bonus to provincial economics at the cost of reduced public order. Yeah, they have slaves. It's an actual gameplay mechanic. Yeah, if you don't like slavers, well, you're probably not going to enjoy playing as the Dark Elves. And Murderous Prowess. Dark Elves receive the favor of Cain, which is, I believe, the god of murder in the Warhammer setting, in the form of increased combat performance should they kill enough enemies in battle. You'll see it, like in an actual battle, be like at the top of the screen. Malekith gives a percentage of his XP to earned to other lords, diplomatic relations with the Cult of Pleasure, which is this one right here, which is led by his mother, by the way, Morathi. Yeah, there's also something about the two of them that I'm not going to mention because it's gross. He gets +2 loyalty for new recruits. This is where the loyalty thing comes into play, and this is something that is a bit of an issue that I don't really enjoy when it comes to playing as either the Dark Elves, the Skaven, or the Vampire Coast, which is if you spawn a new lord, you run the risk of losing their loyalty, and they take that army with them. It's really annoying in that regard. Increased chance of loyalty loss for lords of a higher rank than Malekith. I believe there might be some mods that actually make loyalty a non-issue. I haven't fully looked into that, but it's something I'm definitely considering looking into and adding in here, because the loyalty thing just gets really annoying. It's one of the reasons why I actually tend to enjoy playing as either the High Elves or the Lizardmen more so than these, only because I don't have to worry about freaking loyalty to my lords. But anyways, with all that being said, he does start off with a Reaper Bolt Thrower, which is artillery, and Halberd Infantry, the Black God of Nagorond. So let's sit back and watch the cinematic intro for the Eye of the Vortex campaign, playing as the Dark Elves, which you get by playing as Malekith, Morathi, Crone Helebron, and Lokia Felheart. Malus Darkblade gets a different intro, but that actually is also tied into Snitch over here, which I will show that cinematic off when we go to Snitch, because, well, I personally enjoy playing as the Skaven more so than the Dark Elves. But anyways, Malekith and the Dark Elves.
The world has seen countless murders, but one killing stands above all others. One death that has shaped the world. Malekith, son of Aenarion, was betrayed The elven princes crowned Belshazzar as the second Phoenix King. So Malekith brooded and poured his hate into a single cup. Malekith toasted Belshazzar, then stepped over his dying body and into the sacred flame of kings. But the fires stripped his flesh, and with a final scream, he hurled himself back from whence he came. His body was taken north, and a suit of armor forged. Malekith was reborn. The Witch King. And in his shadow, legions raised. Decades of civil war followed. Then Malekith embarked on the most ruthless of plans. His sorcerers would unbind the magic of the Great Vortex. Created by Kalidor Dragon Tamer and his elven mages, the Vortex siphons the winds of magic, keeping the demon tide at bay. Malekith's spell was flung at the Vortex, but Kalidor himself broke through the mists of time to deflect the titanic force back at its casters. The Shadowlands were ravaged, sundered.
You live. You die. You live. You die. Servants, you amuse me.
The dragon with two tails hangs in the sky, and you indulge in petty games.
You summoned me, Your Highness. You bring this witch here.
She is well versed in lore and prophecies.
She will betray you, my son, as all have done.
She is indebted to me. I have her soul. Step forward, Felicion the Heartkeeper. The comet disrupts the vortex. Whilst it is weak, a prophecy can be fulfilled.
Of a king who consumes the heart of Ulthuan. My son will take its power and our vengeance.
Find the Oracle. She knows what to do.
I am willing to serve, to earn my soul's release.
No sooner has Malekith issued his commandment to Felicion than word reaches him that Naggarond is under attack. A treacherous band of Skaven and their marauder allies have taken advantage of the discord wrought by the comet's appearance to strike at the Dark Elf heartland. Cursing the perfidious Retman, Malekith gathers his retinue and hurries back to the shore to mete out their punishment in person. Yeah. I found it funny that Malekith is just apparently a common name for any Dark Elves leader in any fantasy setting. Because you noticed how the Dark Elves leader here is called Malekith, and the Dark Elves leader in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Dark World, the Thor movie, was also named Malekith. And I was just like, okay, is every Dark Elves leader just named Malekith? Is that just a thing? Like, I don't recall there being a Malekith in Elder Scrolls, but I don't know. Maybe I missed him. Just saying, I found it kind of funny. I wondered if Marvel and who would be in charge of the Warhammer universe at this point? Games Workshop, I guess? But yeah, there are some frustrations with the Dark Elves in terms of gameplay, but there are some things about, them gameplay-wise I do like, including with their army. I like his starting location as well. I've kind of messed with the others. Haven't really played that much of them, though. Malekith is like the one lord that I've really played when it comes to the Dark Elf lords. I mean, after all, he is the leader, basically, of the Dark Elves. I found it funny he also is called the Witch King, since we of course know the Witch King of Angmar from Lord of the Rings, but, we're not going to start comparing the two of them, right?
The fulfillment of a dark prophecy beckons, my subjects. All have felt the unraveling of the great Vortex by the twin-tailed comet. Yet, we are not alone in seeking to yoke its power. The Undervermin march against us in number, driven to suicide against my wrath in service of some mad scheme. The Skaven run rampant across the wastes of Nagaroth in my absence, plundering its arcane resources. My return shall ensure their agonizing deaths. Yet the Vortex remains the greater prize. It shall be mine.
Alright. So, I will, of course, go over the stuff about Malekith in just a bit.
Hey!
First, let's get rid of the Skaven here. What do you say?
Slaughter them! Come, Druki. Release them. Flee.
So we can either murder them to get XP for our army, or we can enslave them. Because remember, as I pointed out earlier, slaves are an actual gameplay mechanic for the Dark Elves in this game. You don't believe me? Look over here. Yup. You can either do the receive slaves, request additional slaves, or just no more slaves, because remember, this does affect your public order. Now, I believe there was a mod that made it where you could get just in the background just plus 100 public order every turn or whatever. I don't think it's working anymore. I think it might be out of date. I don't think the author kept updating that, but anyways. There is one other thing I, of course, really like about Malekith, because, as I mentioned before, I like it when certain lords get really cool mounts. It's one of the things that I really like, and Malekith is no different. He can get a cold one. He can also get a cold one chariot, or he can get a giant black dragon named Seraphon. Yeah. Look at this. Look at this thing. Now that's a mount right there. A giant black dragon. Oh yeah. That's the kind of mount you fly into battle on.
Seeking depravity.
Let's go ahead and clear these guys out. Get out of here. Alright. So here's some of the extra lore. Actually, before we do that...
Malekith, King of Nagaroth.
If they shall not bow to me, the rightful ruler of Ulthuan, then I shall see each tower crumble and every soul scourged in pain until they beg for my rule. Long ago, the near-immortal elves were a single race, united in outlook. Then came a great divide, when avarice, jealousy, and malevolence boiled over and forever tore apart their civilization, denied the throne, and then rejected by the god Asurian's purifying flames, Malekith, rightful son of an Aryan, has declared himself forever the enemy of Ulthuan and the Asur. Although Malekith's broken body was healed by his mother, the hag sorceress Morathi, using magical means, he remains scarred from the encounter and twisted by an inalienable desire to avenge himself upon those who once considered kin. There are none among the Druki, Malekith's elven supporters, who have seen his face, for his entire body lies encased within a suit of enchanted black metal armor, said to be fused to his flesh. Many among the Druki even mutter that Morathi's dark magic has rendered her son immortal. Whether or not this is true, Malekith promises dire vengeance upon the Asur, vowing to wipe Ulthuan forever from the face of the world if he is denied the Phoenix throne again. Deep within the Dark Elves' bleak kingdom of Naggaroth, plans are afoot to bring about the High Elves' downfall. To this end, Malekith has spent centuries training to become the perfect warrior, a much-dreaded sorcerer, and an inspirational, quote-unquote, leader. Although fear of the Witch King, as he is now known as, in many cases, the galvanizing element. Whatever. Malekith's forces have followed him across the world in pursuit of his dark goal, and have faced the High Elves on many occasions. In spite of this, Ulthuan still stands. Nothing, if not persistent, Malekith knows that soon there will be a final reckoning between the elves. The Druki will rise, the Asur will fall, and the work of millennia will at last be complete. If the Witch King cannot rule Ulthuan, then no one will. The Tyrants of Naggaroth. Malekith's hegemony. Dreadlords and Masters are the so-called noble-born rulers of Naggaroth. They range from sycophantic schemers to masterful strategists who have waged war across 100 battlefields, though all such nobles pursue their own unique enthusiasms and ambitions. They are without exception selfish individuals, possessed of an arrogance matched only by their martial prowess, honed over centuries of unceasing war. Dark Elf commanders seldom lead through personal ample, preferring to rely on bloodshed and intimidation. In Naggaroth, respect counts for nothing unless it is backed by fear. Amongst the lower-born Dark Elves, it is thought better to die at the hands of an enemy than to face the wrath of a disappointed Dark Elf lord. The enemy, at least, will grant a swift death and have little prospect of making your family pay a bloody price for the failure of their kin. Dark Elves are sustained by the misery that they inflict upon others, and noble-born offspring have no special protection. Those that manage to survive to adulthood are sent on a year-long raiding expedition. Dark Elves abhor weakness of any sort, so those youths that fail to make their mark during this time do not endure long thereafter. Some are slain by ambitious rivals. Others are murdered by their own families who can neither tolerate nor risk a weakling's presence. Should the stripling acquit himself well during this rite of passage, he begins his ascent through Naggarothi society. However, this is a ladder with very greasy rungs, and more nobles perish in the climb than ever reach the heady heights of becoming a dreadlord. To alleviate the understandable paranoia engendered by the Dark Elves' treacherous society, a rigid code of etiquette has evolved. The low-born classes may not approach within 3 sword lengths of a noble without being summoned. A retainer may stand as close as 2 sword lengths, whilst a trusted retainer, such as a bodyguard, may stand just outside a single sword's length. The closest, most intimate space is reserved for lovers, playthings, and mortal foes, the latter being far more trustworthy within reach than not. Many dreadlords owe their positions of power to their bloodlines, daring exploits, or the Witch King's mercurial favors. Others are granted temporary power by means of a writ of iron, an edict granted by one of the 6 rulers of the great cities of Nagaroth. He who bears a writ of iron shares the sponsor's authority, a powerful tool for the ambitious. However, should a Dark Elf fail in his appointed task, or show cowardice whilst acting in his sponsor's name, the writ is melted down, and the molten remains poured down his throat. Such is the price of failure in Nagaroth. Well, these sound like a very uplifting, warm, loving, caring society, don't they? You see what I meant? What I was talking about when I mentioned how they are one of the more evil factions in this setting, apart from Chaos. Yeah. So hey, if you want to play evil, well, I guess you can't go wrong with the Dark Elves, right? By the way, yeah, look at this setting. It's like, or not the setting, this location. It's way up here in this upper corner here. You do have to be a little concerned about some of these, Norska, up here. But otherwise, this is not a bad location here with extreme cold and snow everywhere. So, yeah. I, of course, already went over the video about how I really like, some of the units and the armies and such here for this faction, because some of them have, Black Dragons, some of them have Hydras, and they also have army units that are capable of going back and forth between melee and using ranged weapons. Like you can be able to get shades that are, or that can be capable of switching back and forth between using like handbows or swords, for example. Now, I can't really show it right here, but yeah. So yeah, that's the intro for the Dark Elves featuring Malekith. And as I said, there is another unique one involving the other Dark Elf Lord, but that also involves another Skaven, which we will take a look at when we return. Yes, yes! Stay tuned.